I just went from being so sad to so happy. That is just so sweet. Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's coming up to sweater weather, so you know I'm excited to go thrifting and upcycle some sweaters. So I went online for some inspiration and I fell in love with this sweater. I just love like the deeper V-neck, the elbow length sleeves, and that ribbon detail I thought was just really pretty. So I went thrifting looking for sort of a lacy open knit sweater that I could weave a ribbon through, and I sort of had luck, but not really. So I found this gray sweater. It's got that big cowl neck. So even though I don't love wearing a big giant cowl neck, that's a lot of extra fabric that I can use. And it's got that lacy open knit. And I even went to the fabric store, found some gray ribbon. And so I was super excited. Got it home, washed it on gentle, hung it to dry, and then finally tried it on. And that's where I realized I'm in a pickle. It's just horrible. So give me a second. I'm gonna put it on. You're gonna agree it's horrible. Okay, maybe horrible is an exaggeration. I have a little gray tank top underneath it because it was way more sheer than I expected, and it's so tight that it just was completely unflattering. This little undergarment seems to be helping, making it look a little more slim and trim, but it's incredibly uncomfortable, very tight over the shoulders and under the arms. And of course, this is a big thing. But look how nice the neckline can be if I remove this cowl, right? If I can just make it this wide open neckline, I think that could be really pretty. And nice open knit for me to wave that ribbon through. I need to make it shorter here, bigger here, bigger here, change the neckline, weave that ribbon in, and then no problem, right? That's, oh yeah, no pressure. So I'm actually feeling a little more inspired than I was 5 minutes before filming. When I look at it on camera, it's not as horrible as I had thought. What I'm thinking then to make the sleeve bigger is I only need half the length. So that bottom half of the sleeve is gonna come up and give me extra fabric really to put into the sleeve, give me some breathing room through the sleeve and under the arm and through the body as well. I might take some of this cowl and put it through the sides as well because a girl's gotta breathe. So do you think there's hope for this one? Then let's get busy. Okay, so the first thing I wanna do is get into that underarm because it's excruciating. And this sweater is from Mex, which is an expensive line. And when I bought it, I saw that M, medium, but that's in France and Indonesia or something. I don't know. But definitely in Canada, it's a small. So see this nice big thick edge, that chain stitched together, and I can probably open that up fairly easily. I know there's a chain in there somewhere and I just have to find it. And I want to find it without cutting the wrong yarn. Oh, looky there. Yes. Oh, yes. Here. Oh, look at that. Now the party is started. Okay, that is fantastic. My underarms feel better already. Look at that. Oh, yay. Good. So now I can just treat that like fabric, and I am on easy street now. I'll save this just in case I learn how to sew that back together the right way. I probably will just sew it back together on my sewing machine. Okay, do that again. If the chain doesn't run one way, then go to the other end of the seam and try to find it again and pull the opposite way. You can see, right, that little chain of yarn that just looks different from the rest. It's not these loops, it's a little chain. That's what you want to get into and snip, and then see if you can pull it. There. It's always a nice little surprise when it actually works. So this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to be cutting the neckline. The maximum length that the sleeve is going to be able to be is half of this length, right? Because I'm going to take a piece from here, insert it into here. So I think I might as well start with that, jump into the deep end here and cut my two sleeves in half lengthwise. Yes, it is scary. I sometimes get comments that I'm very brave when it comes to cutting into knits and things like that. And no, I'm not. I am terrified. But you know what? There's not a ton at stake, right? The sweater cost me about $10. So if I ruin the sweater, I'll still be able to use the pieces for something else. I'd be most sad about ruining my video. So that sleeve's 22 inches long. So 11 is my halfway point. Here goes nothing. Okay. So what I'm thinking for the neck is I'll cut the cowl about 2 inches away from the neckline, maybe 2.5 for some seam allowance. I'm gonna serge this edge so that I can turn it down to make it like a big crew neck. I think that'll be okay. So if I'm cutting off that, I still have all of this, which I can work with as a cuff on the sleeve or to expand the waist, or maybe even both. I want a 2.5 inch mark, so I'm putting my finger at the seam and then my 2-inch ruler up against that. Is that too loosey-goosey? And I'm just gonna cut one layer and then mark the back and cut it. Okay, that's looking better. I think what I'll do is serge around this neckline just so it doesn't start to run. So I'm just gonna serge that and then come back to figuring out how to make this all bigger. If I want to put a little cuff at the bottom of both sleeves, that means that half of this cowl would go toward that. That leaves me the other half of the cowl to put onto the sides here. And this piece, it's a bit short, so I'd have to have a little seam under the arm. That's okay. So I'd have 2 strips, like 2 pieces with a seam going there to there. I think this is gonna work. I think it's gonna work. Okay, so I'm gonna first take that to the serger. Let's do that. If you don't have a serger, you can definitely just zigzag this edge. That's gonna work for the neckline as long as I'm happy with where the neckline is, but I'm not ready to decide that yet, so let's go back to working on those side seams. I need to cut these 2 sleeve pieces in half because it's just a little short to go from there to there. And I don't think I want to have the sleeve any shorter. So it gets wider here. If I put the wider part at the underarm, narrower part coming down, that means I need to cut this in half. So I've got 2, 4, 5 of these cables coming down. So I'm going to cut right on the middle cable and then sew these 2, or maybe just serge these 2 together at the wider end. Okay, so those are going to get serged together. And then here, see how this ribbing is flared? If I'm expanding it, I think I want to get rid of that flare, don't I? And just have a straight seam that hopefully disappears between 2 ribs, because I think that a seam with that flare would look funny. So that means I'm just going to cut off right beside this rib on all 4 of these little corners, and then sew in a section that is also straight. You know what I mean? That isn't flared. I'll cut right beside one rib. And I only have this front section to work with because my cuffs are going to come out of the other section. So again here. And then this has to get divided between the 2 sides. This is for the waistband part. Okay. Yes, and there's that finished edge on the bottom. That was the finished edge of the cowl. So that edge is going to be useful. So I think the sides are taken care of. Okay, I'm going to use that finished edge for the cuff as well. To get it long enough, I also have to use this flared part. That's just what it is. So I think that'll work. Okay, so I will cut the cuff piece 3 inches deep. So at the serger, I'm going to serge those edges right side together on both cuffs. And I want this finished edge lined up perfectly. The cut edge, I'm not as worried about. And then I'm serging the 2 cuffs together. This is my finished edge. I'm going to start there. And I'm just going to serge a couple stitches. And then lift up. Bring that tail forward. And serge right over the tail so I have a nice finished edge at the bottom of the cuff. Okay, that's pretty nice, and then the bottom of the cuff looks good. These little side panels I'm serging together at the wider end. And you could, of course, sew and then zigzag. So that'll be the underarm seam. Okay, goodies. So I'll flip this to be inside out now. And then here is the side panel that I've just serged together. Oh yes, that's gonna work out great in there. And then I think I will attach a piece of the ribbing. There's my finished edge. Ooh, I barely. I wish that was just a 1/4 inch longer, but maybe I will just be fine. There's no wiggle room on that at all. With this thick knit, my pins will get lost in there, and that's dangerous at the serger. So I finally ordered a bunch of clips. I ordered these off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description box, but that's going to be way easier to see and keep track of as I put this through the serger. And there's a link to all my favorite tools in the description box. Hopefully you find that helpful. Okay, so with that lined up, then I know that my seam should be here. That means I want to cut about 1/2 inch below that. So here's where I'm cutting that. And then I'll just cut it off even with the bottom of the sleeve. And then this will serge to this ribbing. To make this look good, I want to be alternating, right? If there's a space here, I want to put it on a rib. I want to put a rib into a space. So it's like that. And then I'll be sewing right down beside that rib. And then that will look good. Hopefully the seam will just disappear in there. Good. Okay, so now I know where this needs to lay. And so that helps me to figure out where this needs to connect to that. I'm going to serge across here, refigure that. That's going to work. Okay, hopefully this is making sense to you. Good, so I'm going to take this to the serger, serge across here first, then both of those seams. Hopefully the sleeve is good. I think we're good. To have a nicely finished edge on the bottom here, I'm just going to serge a couple stitches and then move my needle down, lift up, bring that chain of thread forward, and try to serge right on top of it now. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. Serge the other side. And then that does get kind of hidden in there, especially when I press this. I think that you won't really be able to spot where my seam is anymore. That's pretty good. This one is actually not great. I'm going to just bring that one in a bit closer to hide that seam. See what I mean? It's like flaring a bit. Oh yes, so I'm just going to sew that one in a bit closer. I'll just put a clip to remind myself. I'll do that when I go back to the serger. After I clip this together, I'm just going to pop it on over my head and double check before I serge that all. So I'll put that on inside out so that I can easily move these clips if need be. Okay, so it looks funny right now, but I actually do think I'm making some progress. The fit through the body and under the arm is a billion times better. The neckline, it is going to fold over and I think be quite a pretty neckline. But as much of an improvement as I think that is, I looked back at my inspo shot and I really do like that V neck. Like, I think that's really, really flattering. So I am going to see, and I don't want to ruin it, but I want to see if I can bring that neckline down. There's certainly room in the band to bring it down. And so I'll just see if I can deal with that edge. I think it'll be okay. But other than that, like, the body is so much better. Once I press my seams, they won't be so wiggly. I think that'll sit nice. The little ribbon on the front, that's going to be sweet. And then there's a little cuff going on the sleeve. I think that'll be fine too. I think so, right? Okay, let's persevere. So for that neckline to come down, that means I need to open up the chain stitch that's holding this ribbing onto the neckline. So once again, I'm chasing that chain. So that's just pulling off like that. But now, of course, I'm terrified of losing these little loops here. So I've put onto a big darning needle, I put that yarn, that first chain that I pulled off. And I'm just going to weave this yarn in and out of those loops, just so I don't lose them and it starts to run. And then I have a problem. Now I'm not so scared. And now I can cut and serge this. I'm not as worried about that edge because this one's going to cover it. I'm just looking at that edge and it's quite nice. I wouldn't want to just have that as the edge, would I? And then just put my ribbon through there. Maybe, because that is quite nice, isn't it? I don't know now. I'm gonna put it back on. So I think it needs a really, really pretty neckline, or else it's gonna look kind of dreary. Like, I'm not super excited about it at the moment. It looks a little on the dreary side. So here's where I start to scare myself. When I take that off, this edge is really nicely finished. So if I take this whole thing off, still put the ribbon through, if the neckline is too wide, the ribbon can kind of gather it up a little bit, almost like a little peasant top. It's just a lot lighter weight. Like, this isn't charming me at the moment. This is like, I want to get rid of this, right? Just get rid of that. Your neckline is done. Put the ribbon through. Easy peasy, right? Okay, all right, let's do it. That chain is sometimes so hard to find, but then when you find it, it's just lovely. But that's way better. Oh, lovely. So I want to fix that seam and put the cuff, put the ribbon, and then that's it. With the sleeves inside out, I'm going to take my cuff. That finished edge goes inside first, putting them right side together, and then stretch the cuff across. I'm being careful not to stretch so much that I'm making runs in the knit, because that would be sad. But I do want to distribute the fullness of the sleeve evenly around the cuff. And then I'm just going to head to the serger for what I think is the last time. Okay, so here you can see that whole side panel that I put in with the 2 pieces of the lacy knit and the 1 piece of the ribbing. And so that is quite a lot of extra fabric. That times 2, because both sides. That is a lot of extra. And I worried that it might be too big, but I don't think it is. So I just kind of want to let it cool in that position just to smooth out those seams. So there are the seams, and you can barely see them now that they're pressed nice. Good. Oh, I'm so much happier with that neckline. And then the cuff. Oh, the sleeves look pretty cute. I'll see if I can get those seams laying a little nicer. I think if I try to make the seam allowance go upwards, that might be better. So I'm just putting that ribbon on a safety pin. So this is my center. Yes, I want to start going in there, and then I will just follow this pattern around. I definitely think it was the right call to take that big neckband off, don't you? It's just so much more delicate now, and it just really wasn't that nice before. Okay, that looks about good. Oh, that is sweet. And then a little tea light here. And then just the end of the ribbon, I can just run along the tea light. Whoop. There. So that just seals it in. And you know what that means? I think that means I am done. Let me show you. The neckline is not really what I expected. But you know what? You never know where your upcycling is going to take you, right? You know what? I kind of want to try it without the ribbon. I should be done this video by now. But I think I like it better without the ribbon, don't you think? The ribbon was a nice thought. But if I don't have anything around the neck, then I have to keep it in a little bit, right? So I think... bear with me for 5 more minutes. I'm going to steam this in. Then I think I can go make dinner. So I'm back to using that yarn that I pulled out of the very first chain and getting it back on my darning needle. So now, starting at the center back, I'm just going to weave this yarn through each loop like that. And there's not going to be any stretch on it, but I'm going to be able to just ease in that neckline so that it isn't quite so open. So around the whole way like that, and then before I tie off a knot, I'll try it on, see if I want to pull the thread up a bit more or loosen it, and then I'll take it to the iron and steam the whole thing in to sit nice like that. Now, if you have crochet skills, you could crochet a pretty edge to this. That would be nice. My crochet skills are extremely minimal, but this does seem to be working, right? Like that looks fine. So the neckline is so much nicer. Just weaving that yarn through and through and through just made that neckline come in nice. I'm happy with the neckline. But then I decided I don't like the sleeve. The sleeves hit right at this waistband thing, which already is a bit problematic in terms of maybe being not flattering, but when the sleeves end at the same level, it's not good. So I think the sleeve needs to be shorter. So I'm cutting off that ribbing. I don't think I'm going to use that ribbing at all. And then I might just make an elastic casing at the bottom of the sleeve. I think I'll take that to the serger and serge that and then decide what to do. Then at the regular machine, I turned up about 1.25 inches all the way around both sleeves. And I changed my stitch length to 3.5 millimeters to handle this chunky knit a bit better. And then I'm going to press that flat and put an elastic through. Okay, so I decided I didn't like that big thick hem either, so I undid that. So now I'm going to hand sew it using that yarn. I actually ironed the yarn this time so that it's a little less crazy to work with, and it won't take long to just hand sew that up. Starting with a little double stitch in place. And then I think I'll just pick up 1 stitch in the sleeve and back under my serging. So just around like that. That's going to look a lot more delicate than that heavy hem that had the machine sewing on it. I just didn't like the look of that at all. So I'm about halfway done already. I think each sleeve is only going to take me 5 minutes. So that's worth doing. It does look a lot nicer than that big machine stitched hem. And then I'm going to thread a little elastic cord through here. If I had a 1/4 inch wide elastic that was gray, that would be good. But because it's so open, like a little white elastic would show too much. So I just happen to have this little gray elastic cord that's, I don't know, from some package. And I kept it, and that's going to be perfect. I'll be threading that through at the bottom of the sleeves, and that's going to just bring those sleeves in and keep it delicate looking. I wove this elastic thread through, tried it on. My plan was to put it through the edge and not have this little ruffly, but I thought I might as well try it. And I love the little ruffly. I think that it looks super cute on. But then, ta-da, I have this black ribbon in my stash. So instead of the elastic, which shows, I put the black ribbon through, tied a bow. I really wanted to get a bow in there because they're having a moment in fashion, and I always love bows. I think that's super sweet. So look at that. I'm going to do the same here, and instead of trying to get a bow here, where I had originally planned, I'm going to do it here. And then that helps make sense of this big wide band, which I'm really not a fan of. I feel excited again. I feel like this has potential for me to fall back in love. Alrighty, I want to go in there. And then in, out, this nice lacy knit. It's just like ready for this. It's just perfect for this kind of thing. Now, even here where there's no hole, like I do want this to be even. I don't want a big jump in there. And so I'm just shoving the safety pin in and behind, even if there's no hole there. It does end up looking better to have the little spaces of ribbon even. So if there is no hole where I need one, I'm just making my own. And it's not damaging the knit at all. It's just sort of poking in between the stitches. And all the way around like that. Cute, right? Oh my gosh, what a world of difference that makes. The black ribbon is just so much nicer. Oh my gosh, this is looking fantastic. So I'm completely thrilled with that. I'm going to get rid of that elastic cord. Gonzo. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited to try this on again. I was pretty miserable about this. It just was looking so drab and terrible. But now I'm so excited to try it on with black dress pants. So I just want to pull them up to be about the same and then tie my bow. The sleeves are about the same and the bows should be about the same. Okay, come on. You have to agree that's adorable. Oh, okay, let's put it on. I'm so excited now. Okay, so that is the power of perseverance. This whole time I was thinking, oh gosh, Catherine, why did you buy that ugly sweater? And it just came together in the last 5 minutes, honestly. And you know what? The black ribbon is so much better, right? I didn't need more gray. I just didn't need more gray. And the black gives it a nice definition. But now with that bit of black, it just feels a lot more like me. I kind of like things that are really pretty feminine, but have just a little bit of an edge. So that black gives like the tiniest bit of edge, even though it's bows. But you know what? Bows are really having a moment in fashion now. So I really wanted to work a bow into this project. So now I got 3. I have to say I love it. I hope you do too. I really do. And even if you don't, I hope you enjoyed the process and all of the different trials and tribulations and ending up with something that I love. So I'm going to wear this to work tomorrow. I'm super excited about wearing this. And you know what? 5 minutes ago, I did not feel so excited about wearing this. The transformation in the last 5 minutes with that black ribbon, massive difference, massive difference. So thank you so much for being along for the ride through all of these ups and downs. It's always great to have you along. And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.